Okay, we all present?
Yes.
Okay. First I'm going to talk a little bit about vinegar. Vinegar is a solvent that does help remove toxic substances, even warts, growths, moles. It'll lighten certain tissue like liver spots. You apply it to the skin. However, I've found in my experiments that if you do it too much, it causes tumors. So you have to be careful.
Internally doing it too much?
Internally or externally doing it too much. It causes tumors.
What is it about it?
Pardon?
What is it about it that causes tumors?
I think what it does is it goes into, the body uses it to dissolve, toxic tissue, hardened tissue, and then if it keeps being put in that same area, it dissolves the healthy tissue because it is a chemical reaction. It's in like the bacteria and the parasites and the fungus, which knows better than to eat things that are healthy and well. But the vinegar, it's a chemical. So,
Have already started?
Yes.
Oh. So you're saying, Aajonus, if you drink too much?
Yep.
Drink it or put it on your skin?
Either way,
Thank you.
if you put it too much, too often.
So how much is too much?
Probably if you've got, a wart or a mole that you want to get rid of, once every 36 hours is okay. Any more than that can be too much.
How about internally then?
Internally, it depends upon the size that you are. And most people, a teaspoon and a half a day is plenty.
Because I like it, I like the marinade.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No.
Lemon juice for marinade?
Marinate lemon is fine because lemon juice causes bacterial growth. It allows bacterial fermentation. Lime juice does just the opposite. It inhibits bacterial and parasitical infestation or cleansing.
What about in the bath? That's the vinegar in the bath.
Well, you're diluting it by a tremendous amount. And you've got milk in there, you've got salt, you've got other things to neutralize. And also all the chemicals, in the food, in the water itself.
But stuff is addictive. You really feel it's working.
Yeah. Well, with your weight, you could probably get away with a tablespoon a day.
Besides in the soup process.
Yeah, but that doesn't, that's not released very much because it's bound by the coconut cream and the clay.
Yes, I could have had to put the cream on to put that in.
Yeah.
I've always used on the meat. It's some mustard with some vinegar, and I use that twice a day.
Uh-huh.
It's mustard with a little vinegar.
Yeah, right.
Is that okay? You're not talking about that?
Yeah, you're talking about a very small amount. Okay, we're going to go around. Do you have a question?
Can you guys mind if I film you when you ask the question? So I can actually, otherwise, if there's no question on tape, it's like hard. Great. So if you guys don't mind, is that okay?
Anybody
Yep.
object? Any other questions?
You want to sign release it?
I don't know. It'd be nice, actually. I don't know.
Okay. Big event. My older son is getting married in Kauai.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to be there for a week. And I've got to put my dog with a babysitter and put him on the diet, fill up 1 million jars or whatever I'm going to do. That's the idea. But I probably won't eat the meat. I'll probably just drive up there to the supermarket and put lemon on it. It's still, for me, it's just this for a week.
Uh-huh.
7 or 8 days. That
Fine. On Kauai, in the center of the island, there's a family, a Hawaiian family, that owns a store, a grocery store,
Yeah.
and they have their own meats. And I remember when I was there about 6 years ago, I could get, you know, a pound of sirloin for like $4.25.
Okay, what road is it on? What's the name of the family?
There's a road that goes right in the middle, you know. Yeah, it's small island. So if you get to the center, there's a road that goes up and across.
Okay, I already called two bureaus in Kauai, and I got them crazy, and they were calling. Well, raw milk was the subject, and they both called me back, and they said there's no chance to get anything. Well, what about a little mom and pop farm? I even said to one girl, if you do me a favor, and she drives around, goes home, so I take her a gas. She said she did notice on Kauai. She did notice some farm.
Yeah. But it's not. It's on the Big Island.
Oh, the Big Island. Anyway, so I'm worried how to. So I'm going to bring 2 gallons of milk with me.
You can always ship it. UPS.
You're not going to let you get customs in Hawaii with any
Yep, they're not going to let you through
not let
customs.
any food in Hawaii.
And they don't let you go from Hawaii to LA, California.
You know, when I go from here to Oakland,
Yeah, but that's different. You're going from California to California, that's
really?
fine.
I didn't know that.
But to Hawaii, it's...
So I couldn't bring milk in my suitcase?
Your food is going home.
Well, what about my meat and fish, which I really take with it for a day or two?
That's against agricultural.
So they wouldn't let me bring that either?
Food away from people.
What if I have a doctor?
No, they didn't mean. You know, they took... I was able to get my butter. Of course, I had a letter. No, I had a letter.
Oh, you had a letter.
Yeah.
I can't bring anything?
Yeah, you can. Just,
Butter and honey?
butter and honey probably take, as long as you have a medicinal letter.
I have to bring it all later. Even if I put it in my suitcase.
Yep. Well, they're going to see it when they scan it. And they're going to say, oh, you got a liquid in there. So
the best thing is to get a doctor's letter.
yes.
I just want to reiterate, so I can't bring any food in my suitcase like I do when I go to Oakland or San Francisco.
You can, but you may get it through and you may not.
All right, with the butter and the honey, if they let me do that, if they bring a letter,
Yeah,
doctor's
bring
letter.
a letter, so you have to have it.
All right, I'm really worried then about traveling. All right, thank you.
Do you have a question?
I do. I think I've seen one of your previous recordings from December, I think it was like 05 or 06, where you mentioned adrenals. But, for example, if somebody that is almost complete adrenal fatigue where their adrenals are completely burnt out, what do you recommend? I know you mentioned some things in the book, but is there something specific? They can start out small if somebody isn't, say, accustomed to eating raw meat, that they could...
There's nothing that will work except for like adrenal red meat. But unless they can't get out of bed, they don't have adrenal fatigue. If they have adrenal fatigue, they can't get out of bed.
Okay. If you have, like, somebody has had levels where pretty indicative of almost adrenal fatigue.
Doesn't make any difference. You have to be symptomatic. If I gave you $1 million and you spend $1 million a day, would you be deficient? You probably say yes. I want more clothes or more houses or something. But you really wouldn't be poor just because you use it all.
So just in general, in terms of a diet that would be boosting for adrenals,
Red meat, liver and milk and honey together, adrenals, eating adrenals.
the other thing too is my husband has been on a diet now for like 6 months, and then the restricted diet for I think 3 months. I think it's like 2 months. And he's on the East Coast right now, lifeguarding. So it's like activity-wise, he's pretty much going all day. At the end of the day, his last meal is at like 6, and then he'll craving sugar. And he goes on like 2 changes almost every night. And it's just crazy. Is it like a fat issue or more a meat issue?
It's all of the above. He needs a balanced diet. He can just sit there and be a lifeguard in the sun.
Yeah.
He needs to eat.
I mean, he's been eating. He's been kind of doubling up everything. But
what about having some of that yummy healthy fuel butter?
Well, if you're using the chocolate, that can overstimulate the system depending upon the individual. Because you've got theobromine, caffeine, and theophysine, in chocolate, raw cocoa beans. So it may make you hyper. I can only have it maybe once a month. Other people may be able to have it more often. I'm limited to about once a month.
So is that commercial chocolate or some
No, I'm talking about the raw cocoa beans.
cocoa?
Yeah. Well, I eat it with ice cream. I eat it as ice cream, so I don't have a problem with it.
I had the best experience. I was doing the pound in a rectangular container, and I got the quantity of Cynthia, and I put the walnuts on top. That's somebody else. So I tasted it, and I was going through my own emotional needs of sweetness, but it was more the affection that I wanted. I ended up eating that whole pound in 2 or 4 days, and it satisfied that emotional energy.
Right.
I was okay after that.
Yeah, if it works for you, fine.
I mean,
If you were to have it, a pound every week, you might have a
Oh,
problem.
of course. No, it was just one time. I don't know. I don't crave sweets now, but something happened emotionally that I just went with that, and I thought, well, there it is. And I just kept on going in, and it was eating within 2 or 4 days.
Okay, do you have a question?
I have a lot of problems with digestion, a lot of bloating, a lot of gas.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think I haven't found anything that she likes to.
Well, bloating and gas is an indication that you're dumping a lot of toxins into the digestive tract, and those toxins are mixing with your gastric juices and bacteria, and that causes a gaseous reaction. So eating cheese, a little bit of cheese every hour, helps neutralize some of that toxicity, so you don't have so much, but you'll obviously have a little bit.
I do the cheese before meals.
Yeah, but you could do it every hour, every 30 minutes if you're having tremendous gas, because you need to absorb it, so it doesn't mix with your juices, because it will neutralize your digestive juices and cause a toxic reaction when it mixes with the toxins mix with the digestive juices and causes the bloating, swelling, the gas.
So add a little butter with that, cheese, or just...
Don't need to. Do you have any kind of constipation or diarrhea?
No.
Then don't worry about it. If you had constipation, you could add some coconut cream or butter. If you don't have a problem there, then just have cheese. Much more effective if you just have cheese.
You mean having it separate from any other food?
Pardon me?
Having it separate from any other food, you mean, before you eat?
Yeah, 10 minutes before, and also just every hour, every 30 minutes. Just to make sure you have some going through all the time to absorb those toxins. Okay, Cynthia, do you have a question?
Not right now.
Okay, Joseph.
When you're doing the lymphatic bath, you're supposed to bundle yourself up with the rest when you get out of the tub.
Right.
You're supposed to want to go out for a long walk. What happens if you just bundle yourself up and go under the cover? Shoots you up like crazy there, too.
Yeah, but you're not moving things through. You're not forcing movement.
That's not a good idea.
It's okay, but it will work better if you have movement. Yes, it is.
Once you come out of the bath,
Yeah.
often you just go outside.
Well, you just gotta be a turtle. Move in slow motion.
Can you walk around the apartment with your papers sticking up the wall? Often, 10 times.
As long as there's good oxygen. It's helpful to be in a place where there's good oxygen.
Open the windows. It's right next to the ocean.
There you go.
You don't even need to go outside.
Well, the oxygen off the ocean usually expels between about 1:30 to 5:30 in the morning. Once the sun hits, then it stops. And all day long, it'll absorb carbon monoxide, and then at night, it discharges the oxygen that it makes.
So
So
if you want to walk by the ocean to get the oxygen,
Yeah.
it's better to do it.
Yeah, it's better to do
night
that. Well, you can walk around in your yard.
Yeah.
You know, lots of green oxygen here. You know, green that makes oxygen. Do you have a question?
I've been getting stabbing pains in my left foot. Oh, it's like, what's that about?
It's crystals.
Oh,
Yeah.
like gout?
Pardon? Yeah.
Gouty
Yeah.
kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Uric acid?
Yep. Uric acid buildups, could be lactic acid buildups, any of that. Whey and vinegar helps get rid of it. What you could do is mix about 4 tablespoons of coconut cream with about 1.5 teaspoons of vinegar. Mix that together, let it sit for about an hour, and then rub it into your foot.
I know one time I used to spray the vinegar on with it in the, a spray bottle.
Yeah, it's pretty, since I've been experimenting with it and creating, hardened tumors, I found that too much of it can cause, heavy dryness and dead cells, damage the area.
And how would you work with the whey? How would you said whey?
Just drink that.
Just drink it?
Well, I used to put it with the green juice.
Pardon?
I put the whey with the green juice
Fine.
twice a day,
Yeah.
morning and evening.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
What other good things is whey for? Good for?
Mainly that's it. There's the belief that whey is high in protein and it helps bodybuilding, and that's a lot of nonsense.
But what about the antibiotics? We said that it helps pull antibiotics out of your penicillin out of the body?
It can. Lime juice is a little better for that. Well, kills it is what it does. Kills the antibiotic fungus. Do you have a question? No? So we're going to go around quickly here, aren't we? Do you have another question?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about traveling. You told that story about the eggs. I can't go through the eggs for the airport with the eggs. And I eat an egg, I feel wonderful when I learned how to crack eggs and drink it. How do you think well, am I going to, even if I take 2 eggs with me, a couple of times a year,
Yeah, you probably could. They'll just think it's hard boiled. That's what they do. They ask me, are these hard boiled? And it's as hard as I want it.
Hard as you want it. I remember last time you said that. I take 2 of these, because it really makes me feel very energetic when I eat this.
That's because the eggs digest in about 27 minutes completely. So, and it takes very little effort of the intestinal tract to digest that protein and fat. Protein's in the egg white, and the egg yolk is all the fat.
Yeah, see, if I don't take the milk, the cream milk, I'm just, worried about that. I'll try to get a doctor to know.
Yeah.
But
Well, I have one anyway.
you have one? That's for you. You can't say it for both of us.
No, you have to be for each person. Yeah.
I don't go to doctors, so maybe this.
Well, I do it. I charge $50 for a letter. It's only good for 3 months.
Oh, do you do
Yeah.
that? Oh, we'll see what happens.
They ask you to renew it every 3 months. When I've taken them in older than 3 months, they won't accept them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You say I can get a letter from you?
Yeah, just email
That would
me.
be legal?
Yeah. I'm a PhD
Well, God.
nutrition, so
He's a doctor.
yeah.
Well, I'm just worried about, you have to be there for 2 hours before, and then the plane ride is 5 hours, and it takes an hour to get there. I've got to have something to eat.
Absolutely.
Got to be on my
Yeah.
diet, and I can stop at a store and get some
Yeah.
But for the 5 hours I'm on the plane, I need to have something to eat. So I'm thinking ahead because December comes right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next question, too?
Yeah.
I started having these, it seems like little hardened things, little hard things, like here.
Lymph nodes.
Yeah. They
Glands.
used to be soft, but now like they're hard. Is that okay or is
Vegetable
that bad?
oil.
Use vegetable oil?
No, it's from vegetable oil.
Oh, really?
Vegetable oils in the human body harden.
Ah.
It takes an herbivore, which has a digestive temperature or body temperature 101 to 105 degrees. Ours is 98.6 and lower. So it causes crystallization
You don't
of the
recommend
fat.
even olive oil?
Well, olive oil is not a vegetable
It
oil.
used to
It's
be
a
cold
fruit
pressed,
oil.
right? Cold
Yeah,
pressed.
it used to be cold. Yeah.
So I should,
It's
how
still
do I
quite a
dissolve them?
solvent, though.
How do I dissolve them? First thing?
In the book, I look under lymphatic congestion, those hot baths, and having the pineapple with the coconut cream, a little bit of dairy cream, and lemon juice and honey.
Could you explain again how the coconut cream is made?
Well, it says in the book quite well. But the thing that's symptoms got left out of both books, you need the room to be about 80 degrees. If it's under 80 degrees, the cold coconut meat holds on to the fats, both the water and oil-soluble fats, and it won't release them. So you get maybe a third or a quarter to a half a cup of coconut cream. If your room is 80 degrees, you can get out of one coconut, you can get a cup or more. So that's the big thing to do. How it got left out of the book, I don't know.
You can also put the coconut meat in a glass jar and immerse it in warm water.
Yeah, well, that's what I said that, but still, if the room is cold and the machinery gets cold, it's not going to juice as much.
You have to put the heater on, right?
Yes. Of course, in this kind of weather, you don't have to. It's usually hot enough.
So it'd be a good idea to put the equipment in hot water too, like the grinder and stuff in the juicer.
Well, you can, but I mean, if you spend an hour with the juicer in the hot room, it's going to be in that temperature. And as you start juicing, it's going to be warm pretty quickly.
What if you put it inside some warm water for a while before you process it?
You mean in the machinery?
You just put whatever coconut you're going to use.
Well, that's what I said.
Put it in warm water
Yeah.
for a while?
No,
Like
you
in
won't
a
put it
bag
warm.
or something?
What you do is, like I said in the book, you take a glass jar, put some of the coconut water in, and then let it absorb some of that while it gets warm. It's in a bowl of hot water.
Oh, okay.
So it gets warm that way. But if the machinery's cold, it's going to be cold very quickly. So it's better to have the room 80 degrees. Do you have no
I
questions?
do, yeah. A few of the clients that I work with, I'm slowly getting them to do transition to raw milk. And it's been really beneficial for a lot of them overall health-wise, but a lot of them have noticed that their menstrual flow is incredibly heavier. I was wondering what you kind of either attribute that to, or what are your thoughts on that? Because some of them are kind of getting discouraged in that regard.
Well, all they have to do is eat some green cabbage juice to remedy that. Usually when a woman has a lot of toxicity stored in the ovaries or uterus, heavy metals destroy the U and K, which allows blood clotting. So if you eat the cabbage juice, it offsets that. So when your period's coming up, you have it like, 5 days before, you have a cup of the green cabbage juice, not red cabbage. Red cabbage will cause bleeding, but the green cabbage will stop bleeding. So have it like, every third day before the, 5 days before the period, and then every third day till the period's over.
So that's not just digestive internal bleeding, it's menstrual internal bleeding that is it pretty much all internal bleeding that cabbage is beneficial for?
Yes.
Okay. And it's primarily caused from heavy metal buildup in ovaries, uterus, anything
You're
ovaries and upstairs.
And that destroys the heavy
Destroys
metal.
the K and
the
U.
and K.
Right, which allows blood clotting. There was a famous Swiss actress who was bleeding from her uterus. She had ovarian cancer and uterine cancer. And she had come to Los Angeles because she had been to Europe. She had been everywhere, the universities in Europe, even in Paris, all around, in Switzerland and Sweden, everywhere. Nobody could remedy it. She had been around a lot to these places. And they told her to go to UCLA and USC in Los Angeles because they had, they usually kept way ahead of every other university. So she came here and they did the same stuff, cauterizing, which is burning the tissue and melting it together. That didn't work, grafting, nothing worked. And she went into Erewhon health food store and she watched this fellow get everything she wouldn't get because she was a vegetarian. He got the milk, he got the meat, everything she would get, the cheese, the cream, and he's vibrantly healthy. So she says, I see, is that all for you? And he says, yeah, this is for 2 days. And she says, that's phenomenal. And she told him her problem. And he said, well, give this guy a call. Give Aajonus a call, gave the telephone number, and he can probably help you. So she gave me a call. It was probably somewhere around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening. And I said, well, I don't help people who are vegetarian because it just doesn't work. So, but if you, it's a lot on me and it's a lot on you, and it's difficult to work with a vegetarian. But if you're just wanting to stop the bleeding, that's easy. Just have a cup of green cabbage juice, once a day until, usually it only takes 1 day, and it'll stop. And she said, if it were that easy, everybody would know it. Slammed the phone down. So next morning at 9:30 in the morning, I get a call. It worked. Just like that, overnight. She had it that night. A cup of the green cabbage juice, and stopped the bleeding. So her husband came with her, or boyfriend, who was a famous Italian photographer. And he made sure that she kept on the food and everything. She went off her vegetarian diet. Mostly, she did a little bit of meat, like a half a cup a day, but lots of dairy. She got strong, she got healthy, she had a great time. And then 3 months later, she's got a wave of conscience and said, I can't do this. I can't, torture animals for their dairy. I can't, make slaves of them. So she died a month later.
Oh, boy.
So she got what she wanted. She was a martyr for vegetarianism.
I think one of the biggest things is that the women who have gone to the raw milk, it was just such a stark difference between before and after in their menstrual flow that it concerned a lot of them. And they thought, there's a lot of different philosophies out there that say, consuming too much dairy, after breastfeeding is excess. So I had a lot of, actually just two clients who were pretty much like, well, I don't really think I should be consuming dairy, let alone raw dairy. And when they did, they had excessively long and heavy periods. So
You're lacking vitamin K, vitamin U. When you have milk, you have a lot of rich minerals.
Right.
When you have pasteurized dairy, you've cauterized 50% of the calcium.
Right.
So it's not going to absorb poisons.
Right.
So when you're having the dairy, especially when you're nursing or pregnant, the body wants to pull it out of there because it doesn't want to harm the baby.
Yeah.
So it can cause it, but you just have the cabbage juice.
I have a question now that I remember. I'm around a lot of people now on the Indian tradition, and it sort of started bringing up the issue about the karma of killing animals, and then a lot of people have the issue with the sustainability of eating of cows and having a lot of cattle on the planet. So how would you address both of those issues about it's not a sentimentality necessarily about killing animals, but the more that karma.
Well,
so
you have to take a look at this world is overpopulated with vegetation. So you've got elephants that'll eat whole trees. They eat the bark. They'll eat the whole frickin' tree. They can eat their whole weight in 24 hours. They'll eat massive branches that are, this thick. And, everything gives its life. One life gives another life. And that's the way it is. So vegetarian animal, herbivore animals eat vegetation. Carnivorous animals like us need to eat those animals so they don't overpopulate. So it's a balance. What happened when the dinosaur was around? Supposedly ate all the vegetation. It starved to death.
Well, the other point that many people make that I've been around lately is that if you're that's from the animal standpoint, and we are raising our consciousness above the animal, the state of just being an animal. We are
you came into the animal body. You're an animal. Period. That's part of this spiritual journey here. If you don't accept it, you're going to die or have disease. And if that's your journey, hey, heaven. I wish you all the disease you want, all the suffering you want, if that's your viewpoint. Because I don't hold that.
That's what it's about, it's your viewpoint. If you don't have that viewpoint, then you're already set free.
So I have no problem with eating an animal. I mean, cats and dogs, even apes will kill an antelope, about once every 28 days.
I think we're at the top of the food chain.
Yes, we are.
So we just take our place.
That's it. Yeah. And it's a good thing. If it weren't, we wouldn't be healthy doing it. And as far as the idea that growing grains for us and saving all this land for growing the grain for us instead of the animals is an absurdity. That's what they eat. They eat vegetation. They eat some grain. Mainly grain is for birds. So the whole idea that they're saving the planet by being vegetarians is an absurdity. Because the herbivore can get out there and eat every day, all day long, and it's satisfied. If we eat a vegetarian diet, most bodies are not satisfied. So it causes all types of imbalances, anxiety, depression, all types of ill symptoms, disease.
And what about the issue of cattle, raising cattle in terms of sustainability, that is less sustainable for the planet, like because of the carbon monoxide, the
methane,
the methane
from the fecal matter.
that probably.
The rain washes it down, and it it's eaten by bacteria. It's when the big corporations take the urea or the fecal matter and they dump it into the ground without biologically, not processing it, but culturing it, composting it, gets into the wells. Then it creates a lot of acidic compounds that cause methane gas, and that can be harmful. But we shouldn't be having those intense kind of farms. Everything should be grazed. Like we get, most of our meat from Amos Miller, an Amish farmer, and that's I have him do everything, process everything. So he takes guts of the animals that he slaughters and butchers and lays it out on this grill work of wood, lattice work of wood, and the flies come and lay their larvae, and the chickens eat all these maggots. And these chickens, I was there last year, this week, and I spent the whole day on the farm. Now, when I grew up on when I was on my grandparents' farm, every so many summers, the chickens pecked you, the ducks pecked you. They never got enough protein. These chickens and ducks will follow you around and rub you like a cat. These are chickens. They are so healthy and so happy. No soy, nothing. It's all meat byproducts.
Can we get
meat discards.
Can we get their chickens?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you just have to make sure that James will order them.
So he would put some meat and let the flies get on it, put the maggots, where then the chickens would eat it.
Eat the maggot. Yeah.
What kind of meat did he put out?
Guts.
Or the guts?
Yeah, the intestines, the liver, anything that he couldn't sell. And even the carcasses with, a little bit of meat on the bones, the chickens go and eat that off of there, as well as the maggots laying, the flies laying their maggots and eating that too. So incredible to see chickens happy, not pecking and rubbing against you like a cat. I was absolutely just so happy.
I think we're the only ones in the world that's doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's against the law if he were to sell it commercially. But see, we have I have a lease agreement with him, so we own the flock. So he just handles them for us. So it takes it out of the commercial realm, just like we do with the dairy. And they tried to take him to court several times for not having a permit. And I wrote the legal brief for he and his father, because they both got ticketed and cited, and they're both going into court on the same day. So I did a 19-page document for the father and a 67-page document that had all the details. It wasn't any sense in repeating it, for Jacob Miller. So it says on there, this is non-commercial, this is private ownership, there is no commercial sales here. The law states, and it says the FDA and all that, only has jurisdiction over commercial enterprises. So the judge just threw it out, won every case in the last 6 years. Now Sally Fallon, she has a herd share program, and the herd share program doesn't stand up in some states because it has no legal precedent. So, and I tried to get her to use the lease program for at least 3.5, 4 years. All of a sudden I hear about 4 months ago she's using the lease program. All the problems are gone. So,
because there was a precedent.
Well, not because there's a precedent. Well, he leases, everybody can lease anything. If they let one lease agreement fall, it puts all lease agreements in jeopardy. So they couldn't do it. They had to throw it out. So they don't need permits. And, you know, I sent them in the documentation, I sent the agreement, which means we want bacteria, we want parasites, we want all these so-called undesirable things according to health department regulations. We want what they don't want. So we're completely divorced from their regulations. We have nothing to do with it.
Are they going to claim you as a public health hazard?
They really have to prove there's a contagion caused from the raw milk or the chicken or whatever, and it's impossible to do. I would cut them down in a court of law.
How could it be impossible when they can only pay for the tainted tomatoes, the lettuce?
It's because nobody challenges them. Nobody challenges them. I challenge them.
Yeah, but you must be the lone wolf in the
I am. Even Sally Fallon talks about the bad bacteria and freeze your meat and, you know, or lightly cook it, you know. So she has a total belief in that. Yet these are people who've never done the experiments. They just believe it. And, you know, I've been eating raw meat with never a problem since 1976.
Yeah, but we're faced with having to deal with the law.
Yeah.
And they make up the law.
The law is for commercial. I proved that we were not commercial venture. They have no jurisdiction. They would have to prove that somebody who got salmonella could transfer it by air or touch. Impossible.
So what's happening in Thailand or anything? Is there anything?
Well, my partner there went bankrupt. His son embezzled all of the money out of the company, so left him bankrupt. He did it to his father and his sister. Yeah. So
No clinic in Thailand.
no clinic in Thailand right now.
Not a good partnership.
Pardon?
That's not a good partnership, huh?
No. You know, his son was not a good person.
So where else in the world are you going to go?
I'll just wait until somebody else comes around and asks, you know, offers money again. You know, I'll either do it in Thailand or in southern Mexico.
I don't have anywhere near that.
You don't know that.
Divine timing, you know
Yeah.
it. Do you know it? We don't know, but it's so perfect.
It's a joke.
So perfect. Did you say, Ron?
He said, I may not live that long.
Well, if I live as long as that dog over there,
There you go.
and got this lady taking care of me, I'll be in good shape.
There you
I love you.
go. Did you have another question, Anna? If not, think of one. Do you have a question?
Yes, I choose so that it's liquid. I also have a strong blender that can do the same thing. It's thicker texture, but it's the whole, the whole, yes, and liquid. Are they
Not a good idea. What it does is it causes a lot of cellulose fiber, and it neutralizes the acidic bacteria and digestive juices that are there to digest the meats and the dairy. So it neutralizes it. So you lose digestibility. The only thing I suggest blended is cucumber because of all the collagen precursors that are in the pulp of the cucumber, but that's not a vegetable, it's a bland fruit. I don't like, you know, you can get it from any kind of fruit. You can get that collagen precursors from especially melons, papaya. Any of those will create a lot of collagen precursors. However, it turns the system alkaline, so it does damage digestibility. So having the cucumber, because it's an alkaline but not highly over-alkalinized. And you're having only that as the pulp, and a small amount of it. No more than, let's say, for some people it's as high as 50% of the juice, but the juice is a very small part of the diet. As long as you're not eating it, drinking it excessively.
Well, could you talk about the alkaline and acidic carbon fat that he wants? We're trying to get our bodies to a point of alkaline.
No, you don't. That's all nonsense. That's a theory that has no evidence in reality. That's a lot of nonsense, propagated by Walker and Bragg and all those people. But yet Bragg would use his vinegar all the time, every day. And what happened to his spinal cord? It deteriorated because he ate up the calcium. It demineralized the calcium, caused his spine to deteriorate and harden. So he was carried in the last years that I saw him. He had to be carried, up to the stage. He had to be walked up to the stage, up to the podium. Yeah.
I heard that he died surfing.
Pardon?
I've heard that he died surfing, or I've read it somewhere. Bragg. Is that true or not?
It's a story. I don't know. Nobody dies from surfing.
Well,
if they get a huge wave, and the board, cracks his head open. From what I understand, there was no severe accident. He broke his back.
oh,
So
okay.
breaking your back means you've got toxicity in your spine. And you've got a weak back. Yep. So he believed in alkalinizing, lots of juices, but then he had all this vinegar, which is acidic. So everybody has their little concept about what is right and what is wrong. But just remember, you've got 2,300 varieties of bacteria in the mouth, and they're all acid. You have one enzyme in the mouth that is alkaline, and that's tyalin. Same thing as the horse has. And that's the only alkalinizing enzyme we have. So everything is acidic. So it says our body should be eating acid foods then. Yes.
I have a question about juicing. I've read that when you juice, the glycemic index, which is the rate of how fast the sugar absorbs into the bloodstream, that the glycemic index becomes very high as the sugar absorbs way too fast. So
Absolutely.
I've read that it's not good to juice, but that it's better to make smoothies. Is that?
Yeah, it is better, but it's still you're alkalinizing the system by having too much fruit. Pardon?
Well, what about a diabetic? Because that book, it's the zone, the book, you've heard about it. He talks about diabetics and that it's much better for them not to drink juice, but like he says eat the whole fruit with all the fiber. The fiber slows down the absorption of the sugar, and it's much better that way.
It's better that way, but it doesn't stop the diabetic symptoms. I did it for 6 years, and I was going into, insulin shock constantly.
You did that diet for 6 years?
Well, a vegetarian type diet, high alkaline, lots of fruit, like 60 to 80% of my diet was fruit.
Would you recommend juicing or making
Whole
smoothies
food,
better?
if you're going to eat the juice, I say in the books,
Right.
no fruit juice.
Okay.
So vegetable juices you're
Vegetable juice, yeah.
Are you talking about vegetable juices or fruit juices when
No,
you're asking
fruit.
about
I think he was talking more about fruit juices, but
Yeah.
don't vegetable juice have sugar in them as well? Because isn't that all?
Yeah, but it depends on what. Like celery doesn't have enough sugar to digest itself,
Wow.
so it's a minus. Carrot, beets, those are high in sugars. Those are the only ones that are high in sugar. Potatoes, those kind of things.
So you would still recommend juicing a carrot, right?
Yes, but you're having it with coconut cream and dairy cream too.
So you're slowing,
Right,
balancing it out.
slowing the absorption down, and that's just
Right,
to help pull
right.
bile out of the body. You're welcome.
With all the fiber slows down the absorption of the sugar, and it's much better that way.
It's better that way, but it doesn't stop the diabetic symptoms. I did it. I did it for 6 years, and I was going into, insulin shock constantly.
You did that diet for 6 years?
Well, a vegetarian type diet, high alkaline. Lots of fruit, like 60 to 80% of my diet was fruit.
Would you recommend juicing or making
Whole
smoothies
food,
better?
if you're going to eat the juice, I say in the books,
Right.
no fruit juice.
Okay.
So vegetable juice is your top.
Vegetable juice,
Are
yeah.
you talking about vegetable juices or fruit juices when
No,
you're asking
fruit.
about
I think you were talking more about fruit juices, but
Yeah.
don't vegetable juice have sugar in them as well? So isn't that also?
Yeah, but it depends on what, like celery doesn't have enough sugar to digest itself.
Wow.
So it's a minus. Carrot, beets, those are high in sugars. Those are the only ones that are high in sugar. Potatoes, those kind of things.
So you would still recommend juicing the carrots, right?
Yes. But you're having it with coconut cream and dairy cream too.
So you're slowing, so you're
Right.
balancing it out.
Slowing the absorption down. And that's just
Right,
to help pull
right.
bile out of the body. You're welcome.
Can you drink too much vegetable juice with the celery top?
Absolutely.
That alkalizes more.
Yep.
So,
It can over-alkalinize. Yep.
and over-alkalize will do what kind of damage?
Well, it'll cause gas.
Yeah.
It'll cause a neutralization of the acidic bacteria and digestive juices that digest animal foods.
Although you wait long enough in between, it still will
It
alkalize
completely
the
alters
stomach
it
acid.
so badly. That's why usually after 7 years of being on a fruitarian diet, you hit the wall. So protein and fat deficient.
So there's not enough acid in the stomach for your protein.
Correct, because the fruit will neutralize it, especially fruit juice.
No, I'm talking about vegetable juice.
Vegetable juice will also cause it if you have too much.
What's the maximum amount you recommend?
Pardon? It depends upon the person.
Okay.
If they drink 4 ounces of juice and they do well, and they drink 8 ounces and they don't do well, 4 ounces is appropriate, 8's too much.
12 ounces too much, less than it?
Depends upon the person.
What kind of symptoms? And so what were the...
You start having a lot of gas. And you start getting weak. The food starts passing out the feces whole pieces of meat, pink, undigested. Many effects from it.
Well, if you don't have those symptoms, then that amount is okay.
Okay, temporarily.
Temporarily. Yeah, like you're following the body.
And it usually takes 7 years before a person hits the wall hard. But most people, because they're cooked vegetarians, will hit the wall in a year and a half, 18 months. David Wolf, back 7 years ago when he started, or 7.5 years ago, I said, well, we'll see how you do at the 7-year mark. So what happened last year, some people that work with him said he's starting to eat the raw dairy, but not telling people. They see him eating it. So,
Why, was he a proponent of vegetarian?
only fruitarianism. Diehard fruitarian. Yep.
So a person eating standard cooked food, not the Parmesan, but is taking, say, 12 ounces of the celery parsley every day. Will that also interfere? Will that assist in cooked food?
It'll assist the cooked food.
It
Yeah.
will.
Because when you eat a lot of cooked food, you get overly acidic. So enough will counterbalance it. But you're still going to demineralize.
What does that mean?
Your bones are going to get thin and brittle, all kinds of side effects. Severe, anorexia, severe bulimia, because you can't get satisfied. You can't eat enough protein and fat on that kind of a diet.
If I can't get juice for a week, then that's Can I eat salad for a week?
It's not a good idea. What I do when I go to a place like that and I'm going to stay for a week or two, I'll buy a small centrifugal juicer and I'll juice every day. You know, it takes maybe 30 minutes to juice what I'm going to juice for that day and eat for that day. Sometimes I'll make it for 2 days if the juice is fairly good. Yeah.
Juice Man Jr. or something like
Just
that.
a
Is
cheap
it?
juicer.
I carried that when I was traveling. I went to Costa Rica. Juice Man Jr. Yeah, I set my luggage with me. Juice Man Jr. Juice Man Jr.
How much vegetable juice do you take?
I take 8 to 16 ounces a day.
That's it.
When I start having diarrhea, I cut it down.
You know, relative to that green juice, I noticed the celery is getting harder to get in the berries between really green and really white and really sweet and really fat and sometimes really bitter and it's all over the place right now.
Well, if you have natural celery, it's all dark green and bitter. Celery is naturally a bitter vegetable. They breed it to, you know, get some of that, like the particular acid. Forgot the name of it. It's like in spinach. Oxalic acid. So, you know, that's what causes it to go very bitter like that. So.
Yeah, but I tell you, when it's really green like that, I get rough like that.
Cleaning you out. Then you need to eat an egg or cheese with it before you eat it.
Well, I try to do the cream afterwards.
No. If you're having diarrhea, you do not want cream. You have cheese.
How do you know if it's diarrhea or just detoxing?
Well, that diarrhea is always detoxing, but you can detox too much. Because you can eat a lot of cheese and you'll still detox a lot, but it's just that the cheese will absorb the toxins so they don't irritate the intestine, and you don't need to have diarrhea. Diarrhea is when something is so toxic that enters the intestinal walls and discharges into that environment, the intestinal environment, that the body uses a lot of fluid to rush it out. So it doesn't cause damage to the intestinal tract, to the flora and the digestive juices and the intestinal walls. Before. Yeah. So whatever amount of cheese it takes.
Did you say 10 or 20 minutes before?
10 minutes. 10 minutes is always best.
And then the coconut cream.
And if you're having diarrhea, you start off with a tablespoon. Doesn't work, you have 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons every hour. Pardon? Yes.
That sports drink, how much of that can you drink a day?
For somebody your size, about a quart. Size about a quart.
A quart?
Yeah, a quart a day. But remember, sip. Always sip. Don't guzzle. When you guzzle, the H2O rushes to the kidneys and to the bladder, so you don't get to hydrate the body. You don't get to use that water. And it's all good ionically bound, so you need to sip it. Like you see me sipping the milk, you know. I sip everything.
And what's the sports drink again?
Pardon?
What's the sports drink again? What's in it?
Equal amounts of tomato and cucumber puree with some coconut cream, a little bit of lemon juice, dairy cream, and a little vinegar. It's pretty tasty, yeah.
So like V8 juice kind of?
Yeah, but you can't guzzle it, you know. A lot of my athletes will guzzle it.
So in actual fact, when they guzzle, they're just getting a straight hit of water.
Well, if they have water, they're not going to utilize it. Most of it's going to rush to the kidney. And if they're gulping the good, even the good stuff, they're not going to absorb it. A little at a time. Do you have a question?
I'm breastfeeding, and I get really skinny. eat all my milk and all my stuff, how can I keep my weight off?
You have to eat lubrication for 1 or 2 lubrication formula, moisturizing formulas a day.
Is that in your book?
Yes,
Okay.
in the recipe book.
You haven't done that?
Tastes like a lemon
I
meringue
have
drink.
3 kids now, I can't keep up with all the information. It's called moisturizing formula 1?
Pardon?
Moisturizing formula 1?
Oh, 145 of the recipe book.
135, right?
Of the recipe book, no, 145.
145.
Or 146, 145, 146. Tastes like a lemon meringue drink. Uh-huh.
Just make sure you have the butter out soft, otherwise it doesn't blend up very
well.
well.
And they talk about using raw milk if you have asthmatic conditions or offending symptoms. But I never know. Can you just talk a little bit about if you really want to get to heal your lungs that have been long in my lifetime, 65 years with the problem?
Well, anytime you have trouble in an area, it's because you have too much toxicity that accumulates in that area. So if it's the lungs, you've got a lot of contaminants that you have breathed into the body, whether it's smoke, chemicals in a laboratory, whatever. So those store in the lung tissue. So you have to eat a diet that will help draw those poisons out to re-strengthen and rebuild the lungs and the bronchial.
Well, you know, all these fires we've had, especially last season.
I know. I
I've
mean,
looked for fires, and it's like I was just finally coming out of.
Yeah. Well, I've got some patients that went over the edge from that and haven't recovered.
Yeah.
So it's very toxic because you've got a lot of building materials which are highly poisonous when they're burned. So I have a lot of people who were pretty healthy, and then all of a sudden they were in those fires, and it causes multiple chemical sensitivity.
So did you develop any programs for that?
Well, several of them do it. One does not. And if that patient doesn't do it, not going to get better.
What is the program?
Well, it depends upon the person, how they've absorbed that toxicity in the lungs. Pardon?
What about for you?
I would have to look at your lungs and your irises to see what kind of compounds are there.
Well, a lot of the mucus flowing and stuff is cleaned up.
That's the mucus is what draws those poisons out. It chelates with it, binds with it, helps remove it. So lots of cheese is always, the first thing to do. Draw the poisons out, absorb them.
And then cheese with the honey at the same time to revitalize?
That, yes, you utilize the cheese as a nutrient when you have honey with it.
And so that's all day long? Just a little bit?
No, you can have that twice a day, let's say after a meal. Just need a small amount to do that. Okay. Do you have a question, Joseph?
I was wondering about the California legislation change for the
Nope. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, it's an awful, awful bill. But as long as it's an opt-in and opt-out, I will support it. Because in organic pastures, Mark thinks that he can still make a good product. And what it does is, in the bill, it says that if they do the HACCP program to make sure that the milk is produced at the highest quality and standards, which is voluntary, that they don't have to follow the 10 coliform count. The 10 coliform count has no relationship to deciding whether milk is safe or not. That was said by the experts against raw milk, as well as for raw milk when we were there before the Agricultural Committee. So I got it on a CD. Yeah. So basically what I'm going to do is within the next few months, after 201 gets voted on and if it passes, I'm going to file suit against the health departments for the coliform count, the 10 coliform count, because it doesn't make it any safer. It's a bogus bill and it was snuck in. And even Congresswoman, Assembly Member Para, who submitted that bill, 1735, she got all upset about the health department for lying to her. So this was said in this meeting, in the Senate, in the House meeting, House Agricultural meeting. Somebody's just went off here. That's basically what they're saying, and that is not true. So it's a falsehood. So I'm going to support it as long as they have the opt-in and opt-out clause. If they don't, and that means that that'll become law, I'll sue against it. I'm going to sue against it anyway, even if it passes with the opt-in, opt-out clause, because it's unwarranted. And the health department needs to be put in their place. Yeah. The reason they didn't, in that one DVD that was put on there, on the internet, by Christie, she created it. She didn't put me in because I didn't give science. We already had 5 scientific papers. People read their papers. I gave a testimonial saying, in my experience, in my imperial work, raw dairy, even with high bacteria, has never created a problem. So this is all unwarranted, and I said that. But you have to understand, Sally Fallon and all these people believe it. They believe bacteria is the problem, and it isn't. If it were, I would be dead. Long time ago. Do you have a question?
25:05, and what time did you say your first session is?
5:30.
5:30, and we
But
have...
if there's many...
How many people want mini sessions? Joe? Yes, mini session? 2?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, so 2 mini sessions.
20 minutes.
Okay. So, and then she's going to interview you
Yes.
for half an hour.
Pardon?
When did you say for interview?
5 to 5:30.
No, 5:15 to 5:30. 15 minutes. Pardon? I'm ready.
On the answers topic, most of the food we eat is acidic, and but I heard from the past you said that it should be more alkaline or go alkaline and then come back and be acidic.
Well, that can be beneficial at times. Definitely.
You eat acid diet and then you go alkaline a little bit, but then
it can help balance the body. Yeah. But it can also be very harmful if you stay on it too long.
Alkaline.
Stay alkaline?
If you get too alkaline.
Yeah, you can go over there, but you can't stay there. One way to
Correct.
stay there is eat fruit and vegetables.
Right.
So if you eat meat and cheese and coconut cream most of the time.
You're about 5'5", which is acidic. 7 is neutral.
What would be a good number? Because I read...
5'5".
5'5".
Yeah. Blood, your saliva, your urine should all be 5'5". About that.
Urine also?
Yep.
Okay. I thought the urine was a little bit more acidic and then your saliva was a little more alkaline.
Not if you're eating properly.
What would be the best test to kind of You don't get urine or saliva?
I wouldn't do either. I would go on your symptoms. If you're getting too hungry, if you're getting lethargic, if you're getting irritable, if you're having depression, that's a sign of getting too alkaline.
Summer fruits, I know that you recommend there's only the rind of the watermelon.
Yes.
So I bought one of those mini watermelons and peeled the outside off.
Uh-huh.
And so I just have the white part to do away the inside.
Right.
Now, how much a day?
Well, like the cucumber, you could have maybe a half a cup to a whole cup.
And cheese with that or some fat or no?
You don't need it because it's not high in sugar. It's like a cucumber.
Okay.
In fact, the rind of a watermelon tastes like a cucumber.
Yeah, it does. It's delicious. It's really wonderful. And what about other fruits? I mean, berries, because those are middle.
Those are low in sugar.
Okay.
Those are okay and high in pectin.
What else?
But still, they're not providing the proteins and fats that you need. They're still cleansing.
Yeah, I know that. But I want to have some fun. I want to be somewhere on this diet. There's got to be some fun.
Well, that's what I say. One fruit meal a day with lots of fat.
So give us some more examples of what's permitted.
Well, anything's permitted. It's best to get fruits that aren't high in sugar, like cherries and berries.
That's all. Okay, cherries or melon.
And unripe melons.
That's impossible to find. I don't know how to find unripe melon.
Yeah.
I mean, every you stuffing them or
Yeah.
what, I don't know what to do to
Or
stuff.
just cut out the heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
throw away the rest.
Send it to me.
Then you're not going to feed your babies a balanced diet.
No, they love watermelon.
Yeah.
Pineapple's okay too,
In small amounts and not highly sugary.
How much watermelon rind?
Pardon?
How much watermelon rind?
I said about a cup a day, half a cup to a whole cup.
Are you going around with
Not a good idea.
Do you have one more question?
Pardon?
That was the juice also?
Yes. Yeah, I blend my cucumber with my juice to get the collagen precursor.
Did you have a question, Elaine?
Yes.
It seems everything I eat goes through me. Always going to the bathroom. I'm following your diet pretty well. Is that okay, or am I eating too much of something, or whatever?
Well, you could be eating too much vegetable juice, or you could be eating a day.
No, morning and evening.
Could be too much. Could be too much.
Okay?
Cut it down to maybe 8 and 8. 8 ounces and 8 ounces. And see if that works. You know, or 6 and 6. Or 8 and 4.
8 and 4.
Yeah, that works.
8 and 8 or 8 and 2. You think that might fit one day?
Yeah. Also, if you eat a lot of fat and you eat it too fast and you're not making enough bile, you could have diarrhea.
I drink milk with my meat.
But how much milk are you
I
drinking?
drink a lot of it.
Not a
I
good
sip it,
idea.
but
Yeah.
I drink a lot with milk.
So you have a whole cup or more?
I would say a cup.
Maybe a little bit much. Take it down to 3/4 of a
Well,
cup.
I can't swallow the meat. So
But just do the best you can. Eat some cheese with it.
cheese with it is okay?
Yeah.
What about butter?
Well, you're going to eat butter with it. You should always eat a little butter with your meat, but you want cheese to absorb that excess fluid.
I have the little afterwards.
And you need cheese. Definitely need cheese with your meat meal.
Cheese with my meat. Okay, I'll try what you said.
So it's not going to put the weight on?
No?
Cheese is very fat.
Well, I'm not having to weigh myself in a week. I'm not going to worry about it because I feel wonderful.
Exactly.
You said that you were chubby when you first started the diet.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going on for 3 years now.
I was probably chubby for about see, as soon as I started eating lots of dairy and meat, that was in September of '76. Took me about a year to get chubby. Not quite, no. I got chubby right away, probably in 4 months. So I stayed chubby until about 94.
Is that right, from 76 to 94? You're looking for that time.
I like you.
He said I have to get a different woman. We know that's a lie.
But you know, speaking of that, though, I noticed as I'm losing weight, now I got a spare tire right down here.
Uh-huh.
Before was up here, it dropped down to the feet. And that's no fun. I mean, you know, it looks like.
Well, at least it's moving.
What's that mean?
It's moving. If it doesn't move, then you've got a problem. You need to move those toxins to get them out of the body. If they're dropping down, you know, to the lower part of your abdomen, that's a good thing. Dropping down to all these lymph glands you have in the crotch. Help neutralize that toxicity.
Okay.
So be delighted.
Well, not in the summertime. I've got to wear my...
Your bikini?
That's disgusting. I do have a neoprene, you know, my wetsuit's on. Because it's like a girdle.
You're right.
I'm embarrassed to go in public. I've got to swim at 6 in the morning when there's nobody there.
Those people don't know you. Who cares?
But all the pictures.
Your body, you have to live with yourself.
Any other questions? Yes.
As you're getting older, and you do have that skin, is there any way of getting rid of that excess fat?
It's better not to until your body will naturally remove it. You don't want to lose it. No. You're asking for trouble. You're asking for symptoms. So the more fat you have, the more protected you will be. Okay, folks.
Thank you.
Joe is first for the private session, so
Okay.
then you can do a session with
Okay. All right.